This is Jennifer, and I'm going to hopefully use a few kind of short audio clips to describe um, some of the things that I think are super important in teaching science. So the first one I'm going to tackle is kind of the idea of the integrated unit, and later on I'll show how concepts learned throughout the year build, and then they're all kind of applicable to an engineering challenge at the end. And I'm going to use the seventh grade since we've talked about it a lot. Hopefully the familiarity will help. So the first unit we do in the year is it's a geology unit that I call Earth as a Puzzle. And it's the kind of some of the main content I want students to discover and understand relates to plate tectonics, the causes of plate tectonics, and earthquakes and volcanoes, and kind of the rock cycle, that all of those are super important for them to understand. The problem is, to truly understand the underpinnings of plate tectonics, you have to really understand what's called convection, since it's thought that convection currents are actually drive the movement of the plates. And so basically I'm going to show you kind of my design process, working from the end of the unit towards the beginning, and then I'll go from the beginning back towards the end. So since my goal was for students to grasp this understanding of convection currents so that they could explain plate tectonics and earthquakes and volcanoes and such, I had to have them understand what convection was. So at the core of it, convection is this process that happens either in a liquid or a gas, where you have an area that has more heat energy, and so the molecules are more excited and spaced further apart and are less dense. And more dense, cooler molecules will come underneath those less dense ones and push the less dense ones up. And then after those less dense ones have been pushed away from wherever the heat source is, they'll cool down, and then they become more dense, and they sink down to push up the heated liquid or gas. So it's like a cycle, basically. It's a process. So to understand then convection, it's necessary to understand density. You need to understand that more dense things will sink underneath less dense things and push them up. And then you kind of also need to understand that the function of gravity in that process. You need to understand that that things have different densities, that liquids have different densities, that solids have different density. And to understand the rock cycle, you also kind of need to understand these processes that happen. To understand, say, convergent boundaries in plate tectonics, and why when an oceanic plate meets a continental plate, the oceanic plate drops underneath the continental plate as well. You need to have this grasp of density. Why would that oceanic plate drop underneath it? Well, it's more dense. It's more pulled by gravity. So you can see, kind of working it backwards, there are these pieces that students need to get to the end. But I want them to discover all the pieces. So in my next little audio clip, I'm going to go from the beginning of the unit forward, and you'll see how all of that fits together.